Big opportunity this evening for Izzo's team this evening. Let's consider a coach, a fixture at the top of the rankings, struggling through this season. Stephen Barno, ESPN analyst, certainly knows the Big Ten Conference oh so well, and same for Drew Sharp, columnist for the Detroit Free Press. Gentlemen, good to have you here. Stephen, how big a disappointment has this Spartan team been?
Well, you talked about 2 Final Four appearances and returning 3 starters. Kalen Lucas was the Big Ten Player of the Year a couple years ago, coming back off an Achilles injury. And so you're thinking that this is a team that was preseason top 3 that could make it to the championship and possibly win it. But what could go wrong has gone wrong, and it seems like a perfect storm that's hit East Lansing at the wrong time.
Andrew, a couple of Final Fours ago, here was Sparty out there fighting for the honor and the revitalization, basically, of Greater Detroit and the state, and this has just fallen flat this year.
Yeah, it has, and there are a couple of reasons why. You go back to the off-season, they had 5 players who underwent surgeries, which denied them the opportunity to work on their games in the summer. And Stephen knows this as well as anyone. That's when a player usually makes the biggest improvement from season to season is the time they can spend the offseason. And also, the Big Ten has become a perimeter league this season. And just by coincidence, the weakest part of the Spartans' roster is personnel. 2 players who they lost, who returned from last year's team, are not back this year. Chris Allen, who was their best perimeter defender, transferred to Iowa State. And then, as we just mentioned before, Corey Lucius gets suspended, and Darrell Summers, quite honestly, has played like a dog this season. He has not been the type of player who helped that team get to the Final Four a year ago.
So the question, I guess, might arise, Stephen, of leadership. Certainly you've got it with Tom Izzo, 16 years there in East Lansing, but on the floor you can X's and O's. You can look at the box scores, as we saw Tom basically crumpling it up before. But when you cut past the roster and who's there and who's not, what do you see?
Well, you see a team that's rudderless on the floor, and you say, well, how can you say that? Darrell Summers, Kalen Lucas, Draymond Green was 6th Man of the Year last year. But what you don't see is a guy named Raymar Morgan that left the team, that was a senior last year, was highly recruited, but a lot of people thought he didn't live up to expectations. But inside that locker room, he was a great leader. He was a glue guy. He did a lot of things for Tom Izzo's team that they're not getting this year. And so you talk about Chris Allen leaving the team, their best perimeter defender, but also their best perimeter shooter. And so you take away the ability to score easily, you take away Raymar Morgan's toughness, his leadership, and you're left with a team that's struggling to find themselves at the wrong time of the season.
Drew, how has Tom Izzo been handling this?
Actually, I think he's handled it well. I think he looks at this as another challenge. Because he told me a week ago that, no one's going to give them any sympathy when you consider the success that they've enjoyed the last 10 years. And there are a lot of people who are taking great delight in seeing Michigan State struggle. But I think Tom Izzo is looking at this as an opportunity to prove that, the toughest coaches, the toughest teams, those are the ones who persevere when they're challenged the greatest. And this has been the biggest challenge he's faced in his last few years as Michigan State head coach.
And when you look at Stephen and what he's been able to accomplish, as we said, the 6 Big Ten championships, 6 trips to the Final Four. I mean, we're watching basically they're in the lab beaker. Here's a chance for a coach to really prove how good a coach he is, and he's got a month now left to try and do it.
Yeah, he does. But, the thing that the people fail to realize is that no matter how great your coach is, the guys have to get on the floor and execute. And, Tom Izzo is a great motivator. But to me, Kalen Lucas and Darrell Summers are 2 guys that people thought about being able to play in the NBA. But these guys have lost money this year because it seems as though their focus is not where they are right now. Their focus is what they need to do once I get to the NBA. Well, you're not at the NBA. And what's happening is the fact that you're not handling your business right now. You've got a high-profile team that was expected to get to the Final Four. These 2 guys are supposed to lead, and they haven't. And it seems like there's been a little bit of selfish play between the 2 of them. I'll give Kalen Lucas a little bit of, credit because he's coming off of an Achilles injury that's tough to overcome. But Darrell Summers is the most athletic wing player in the Big Ten, and he's selling for jump shots. This is a guy that can get to the rim and wreak havoc on opposing teams, and that just hasn't happened. And so Tom Izzo has a big challenge to get these guys to play. But if Kalen Lucas and Darrell Summers don't refocus themselves in East Lansing right now, the Spartans may have a hard time getting into the NCAA tournament.